In this video right now, I'll be showing you how to use the Medibang Paint app, and so this is just what we have right now. Um, the moment you open it, this is what you should see. This is the display that you will see. This is the display that you will see once you. Hey guys, what's up? I'm going to be showing you how to use the Medibang Paint app right now. So this is the display that you see once you open the application, and you will just have it appear like this. And so, starting from here, this is the let's draw and sell canvas, and this is to open a previous work. The next canvas here is to open a previous work, and the last here is to check your gallery if you have other things that you want to do. So if I click my gallery right now, it should take me to some of the works I've done on the Medibang Paint app. So yes, you can see some of them. So this is my gallery, and if you click on it, you can continue editing what you have there. And then I have the previous basically just take me back to the last stuff I was working on before I close the application. And the new canvas is where you want to go to. So you can set your canvas, click on edit, and choose whatever canvas size you want to work on depending on what you have going on. And you can either choose the dots per inch. That's what DPI means, dots per inch. And this is it right here. um, this is it right here, dots per inch. And you can change the pixel, you can change it from pixel to whatever you want, inch, centimeter, depending on whatever you're using. Color specifications and clear. So what that means is you want to choose whether the background color when you enable this is white. If you choose select clear, what it's going to do is going to make it transparent, but you can always change this while you're working in the program, so you don't want to work your head around this too much. So I'm going to choose 2500 by 2500, which is square, both width and height the same dimension. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to create that page right there. So once you create the page, this is really what the app looks like. And so it's a pretty basic app, not much to look at there, but it's actually very. 1, 2, 3, action. So hey guys, so this is what the screen looks like when you just open the application, and so there's a lot going on right here, and I'm going to try to try as much as possible to explain every single tool that's used right here. So once you click on the app, the default tool that you're going to be selected is the pencil tool, and which is for drawing. And yeah, as you can see, it's for drawing and doing any of that stuff. So this is the pencil tool, and it's going to be selected. And this is the eraser. The next one by the side is the eraser right here. This is the eraser, and this button right here is to just preview it at the original size. So if I zoom out and then I click this arrow that's facing the top right, if I click on this arrow, it puts everything back to me. So in case I am working and for some reason my phone glitches and I can't find my canvas anymore, and I'm searching where's my canvas, I can't find it anymore, I can simply click here and it takes me back to my canvas. So you have pencil tool and the pen tool. So this is just basically what this is. And the eraser tool, which you can use to erase any single thing that you have drawn or you have written on the screen. So let me test the pen tool. So let's write something. My name is Great. Tada! I've written my name, and yep, go ahead to try something with this and just see what it's like, right? let's erase this real quick. Now let me show you the other tools are here. So this other tool that's, let me point that to this one right here, is the color picker tool. So what that tool does is that if you have different colors on the screen, and let's say you're drawing something and it gets really complex and you want to pick a particular color, but you can't find it from the color view that's by your left right here, like by your left here, you want to use this color picker tool to just move around and pick the color you want. Let me give you an example. Let me draw this color, like green and blue and something like indigo, bright red, and let's do something like yellow. All right, now this, and let's say I select a black. My color now is on. I'm working on a black. I'm working on black, and I want to pick a particular color. I will just select this color picker tool right here. This color picker tool right here. I will just select it like this and move around. So you see, it creates a preview of the color you are picking. So if I move out, the preview around this circle is white, and that shows you the color you're picking. The preview changes to red when I move to this red right here. It also changes to green when I move here, and then the blue, and then purple, and the red, and then the yellow. So if I select it on, if I release my hand on this yellow right here, what it does is it automatically picks the yellow color, and so when I paint, what appears is the yellow color. So basically that's what the color picker does. I'm going to erase all of this right now. Oh, you know what? I will just leave them there. So the next tool that's here, and these are very handy tools you'll be using, is the undo button. The undo button, which is to go back on a previous action, and the redo button, which is to move forward on something that has been undone. Right. So, for instance, let me give you an example. It's much better to check it out practically than just looking at it the other way. I'll be showing you every single tool in this app, so sit down and um, get a cup of water or something. It's going to be a long ride here. So for instance, I write 1 2 3, and then I click the undo button. What it does is that it removes 3. It has undone, or I don't know the word to use there, but it has removed that. It has removed 3. So if I redo it, what happens is that 3 appears back. So it comes in handy. Let's say you are drawing something, for instance, and you're drawing the eyes. Let's say you're drawing the eyes, for instance, and you make a line and you remove it, and you say no, and you like this, you like that line. You're like, no, I made a mistake. You can still have the line come back. So that's just what it's meant for. Let me clear this layer, this place, because it's getting really congested now. So that's it for the undo and the redo button. And then we have this blue beautiful button that's obvious here. According to the user interface, it's like the most important thing that you can see here, which is your save button. And this button is very important. I don't have to explain what it does. It basically saves your work. So when you're working, you want to be clicking it periodically to save what you're doing. And then there's this other mark here. It's like a bunch of squares or something. This icon, what this icon does is basically if you want to move this, panel, this is your tools panel. You want to move it up, you want to move it down, you want to move it any other angle. That's basically what it's for. So you can click it to move it. Let's say you prefer it to be up here, you can basically move it there. Okay, now that I have that, I will move to the next set of panel here. The next panel here, which is underneath this one we just considered. And from here we'll look at this. This is more like the file tool. The 3 rectangles that you see here is the file tool. You can see the save button, save as. Save as is if in case you want to save it, you want to make a duplicate of a work you're doing, you can click save as, and then it will save as a duplicate. Then export PNG and JPG file. What that does is basically if you are done with your creation, I want to export it so you can share it to your friends and whatever, or your Instagram, or where you want to share it to. You can see it has a PNG format, PNG transparent format, and a JPG format. Now, once you're having PNG transparent format, what you want to do is that you don't want your background to be white, right? you want it to be transparent, and I'll show you how you do that in a bit. Then the next thing here is the settings. If you click on settings, there are a lot of settings right here. I will not be going through all of these right now because, well, maybe I should just look at it. So they don't use the volume key. What it does is that it deactivates your volume key so that in case you're working, it doesn't. Um, this volume, the volume key up and down can be programmed for certain functions to undo and redo and stuff like that. So if you don't want it to work, if you don't want it to be active when you're working, so you can just click this. Turn off anti-aliasing. Anti-aliasing is like when it's. I think it's more explanatory when with an example, right? It's just the clarity of your lines, right? If anti-aliasing makes your lines to be clearer. So if you turn it off, your lines will be looking like pixel-based stuff. Let me show you that. For instance, if I draw a line like this, you can see how smooth the line is. But if I zoom in very well, you can see it has a lot of dots, right? These are the pixels in the whole art. So if I turn off anti-aliasing, when I draw a line, it's going to appear funny like that. Let me see if this, just see. All right, you can see that it appears very funny. Yeah, it shows the pixel. All right, so I'm going to go to settings and turn it off back. Turn it on back rather. And this is pen pressure. For pen pressure, it's basically if you have a soda pen or you're drawing with your tablet, that's when you want to enable this. But if you're drawing with your fingers like I do, you wouldn't really need that. Display brush cursor, you can select this so that when you're drawing, you can see where your line is and what you're doing, showing what stroke you're making. I didn't really set this on because I think I did it the manual way. Now that I see it, I think it's a pretty dope feature. Use palm rejection. Palm rejection is basically when you're drawing and you don't want your palm touches the screen. You don't want it to create something. You don't need to select something or ruin your work. You can just turn on palm rejection so that um it doesn't active. It doesn't. It's not sensitive to your palm. And then your auto recovery settings, depending on the kind of person you are, you might want to set it to 10 minutes so it saves automatically for you. I usually set mine to 5 minutes because I'm very bad with saving my work. I can start drawing for a long time and not save. And this helps you in case for some reason your phone lags or the app crashes. Your file will be saved up to the last auto recovered clean. And then this is the rotate shortcut. And I think all of these are just self-explanatory if you go through them. And then on this bar, we have the help setting, and the help will just give you a quick tour of the application. It will, if you click on Let's Draw, it shows you some tips on what you can use. Right, I think this comes from the moment you get the app, and if you get the app, you should probably see it. The moment you open the app for the first time, I think you should see that. There's a quick tour. The quick tour, it will show you around, shows you basically everything that's on here. And that's really actually what I'm doing right now. It's written in Chinese or Japanese or something like that, which is funny because it's actually a Japanese app. And so, okay, we're done with that. Um, the sync is to connect your phone with the application on the mobile, with the desktop application. So in case you're using your phone and you want to transfer your files from your phone to the desktop application, you want to sync, but you need internet connection for that. And start using Sonar Pen. Sonar Pen is like a stylus that you use to draw on your phone screen. So you can enable this. But I think if you're using a Samsung or a phone that Samsung Note or a phone that comes with a pen, I think it will work without even clicking on this. And calibration of a Sonar Pen, so you have to calibrate your Sonar Pen. Your Sonar Pen has a cord, it's like an earpiece. You plug it to your phone, and then the other end is the pen that you use to draw on your screen. Then basically the exit button is to leave the app. So we're done with that. And then this second button right here, where is that thing now? This button right here, this one, we're going to click it. You see, it has the copy function, cut function, paste, rotate, flip canvas horizontally, canvas settings, and crop. So all of these things should be self-explanatory. You don't need me to explain what all of these things are for. Canvas settings, this is where you can go back to set your canvas and set your image size in case you want to resize your work while you're drawing, you can always change it from here. And canvas background color, this is where you can change it to clear in case you want to export as a PNG. You can see the moment I clicked on it, it's changed. What this means is that this is transparent. So in case you're doing a t-shirt art or something like that, this is the way you want to export. Let me draw something. For instance, let's say you're drawing a t-shirt art, and this is the art you want to have on the t-shirt. Right, let's see. This is the art you want to have on the t-shirt. Let me draw something real quick. For instance, this is what you want to have on the t-shirt. If you are drawing, if you have it normally, it would look something like this. It will look something like this, right? White background, and you don't want to export as white background. If you want it to be printed on the shirt, you want it to be printed in any color. So you come to canvas settings, click canvas background color, and you change it to clear and hit OK. What that does is that it removes the background automatically for you, and you can now click this rectangular icon here and select export, and export as PNG transparent, right? So this shape can be printed on anything, PNG transparent. All right, let's clear this real quick. So I want that black background, so I'm going to click on canvas setting once again and select that white background. Yes. So the other thing on the canvas setting is comic template settings. And in case you're working on the comic book and you want to set all of this, but I really can't explain this right now because it's relative to the kind of comic book you're working on. The American standard comic book style is different from the manga comic book style, and even in the manga comic book style, they are different manga comic book style. There's the doujin. They are different um sizes and dimensions, so I can't really tell you what to use right here. So it's relative. You just have to look that up and choose what's right for you. But I don't think you'll be messing with here when you get started. You can just set the dimensions normally and get to it. Then the next thing here is this icon. Honestly, I don't know what to call them. The icons are really funny. This particular icon here, right? This particular icon. Let me click it and show you. So it has the select all. Basically, select the entire art. It has the deselect button to select anything that's selected. Inverse selection, what it does is that if you have something selected and you want the inverse, the opposite of what is already selected, you just click inverse selection. Let me see if I can go back enough to get that okay artwork that we did. So what I'll do here is I'll just try to select this, and I'll be using an app, the tool that I've not shown you. Right, so this is now selected. If I click on this tool and select inverse selection, what it does is that it selects the opposite of what I already had selected previously. So I will just click on the select. Now I have the select portion, and select portion selects the what do I it selects the whatever is on the layer that you are on. So if there's an artwork, if there's a line, or you did the color on a particular layer, you select and you click on select portion. What it does is that you select everything on that layer. Select portion just selects everything that's on that layer. Now we're talking about layers in a bit. So I'm going to click here and click on deselect, and I'll click on the next. What we have here is the zoom in and the zoom out, and the zoom in and the zoom out will basically zoom in and zoom out whatever you have on that particular layer, right? So it basically zooms the character out and zooms it in. You can use this to transform and manipulate your artworks. The free transform tool is this kind of tool that gives you freedom to transform the shape of what you have on the layer any way you like. For instance, you can see how I'm dragging this right now. I'm just dragging this character anyhow, and you can also rotate and do whatever you want to do. This is free transform. You can click on perspective correct, which basically makes the art to align to perspective if you drag these buttons or these nodes. Right, so you see that not nothing too fancy, nothing too special here, but yeah, it comes in really handy when you're doing some kind of illustrations. Click on cancel, and then we have the mesh transform tool. If I click on the mesh transform tool, I select the vertical point. You see what it does is that it gives me freedom to transform some certain things. It's like the liquify tool in Photoshop, right? Or the warp tool in Photoshop. This is basically warp tool. What it does is that it allows you to modify certain aspects of what you have already drawn. Now you're going to experiment with this to really get the hang of it. You're going to experiment with it to get the hang of it, to know how many pixels you want. And yeah, you see, I manipulated this without having to, erase and do all of that. So I think it serves its own purpose. And then the create boundary tool is when you have a selection ongoing. And I don't really use this tool, so right, so it creates a boundary, and I really don't know what this tool is used for. To be really honest with you, because I for the for the 2 years I've been using this app, I've never used this tool. Quite funny, I know, but we're going to skip it because the instructor doesn't know what the tool is meant for. So we're going to deselect, and this other button right here, this one right here, this icon that looks like a phone rotating. We're going to click it, and it just helps you to rotate your canvas, flip horizontally, flip horizontally, flip horizontally. The next tool after the photo, this tool that we've just looked at here is the pen tool, and we've looked at that previously. Pen tool basically just tells what the pen is supposed to do, right? And that will take us to, before we look at the brush, we're going to just take a look at this slider we have on the left right here. This slider is basically for color, value, and saturation. For inside, the first column we have here will affect the first column would affect the saturation of your color, right? The saturation of your color. And let me see, you see that. So if I take it all the way to the bottom here, we see that this color is very saturated. This color is very saturated. And the more we take it up, it gets desaturated and desaturated and desaturated until we get to white. And when we get to white, we can't see anything anymore. I'm gonna clear this right now. And the second we have here controls the values. Basically, the values is the level of brightness. The level of brightness. So we can see this is very bright, and then the more we take it, it gets darker. It gets darker. It gets darker. Gets darker till it gets to black. So basically, you would have to experiment this and use it to get a grip of it. And the third column here, that's like a rainbow that has all the colors from red up to purple all the way back to red. So it's like a full color palette, and you can basically just scroll and look for the color you want. And this is when you're doing coloring. Now, if you click on this link right here where you see HSV, you can change it to palette, and it will display the palette that you have going on. For instance, you're drawing a portrait, you might not be using a palette like this, you might be using a totally different palette, and I'll be showing you what I mean. Now, the palette basically is a set of colors that you would be using for your art. Basically, a set of colors that have been selected. If we see here on this tool right now, where's that tool? There's a particular tool right here. Yeah, you can see that it's just like when the professional artist, traditional artist is working, they have like a small palette that they put in their colors, and those are the colors they want to use for that particular piece they're drawing. So you can either work by palette or you can work free and just select random colors that you want, and it's completely dependent to you, and it depends on what you're working on at the moment. Now, with that said, that will take us to this palette tool right here, just after the brush, the base toolbar here. If you click on this, you can see it opens this menu, this palette tool. You click on it, it opens this menu, and it gives you your list of brush. You start with the pen, the pencil, sharp pen, G pen, marking pen, edge pen, stipple pen, sumi pen, watercolor, watercolor wet, acrylic, airbrush, and the list goes down. Right? You can even download more brushes from the web, and to do that, you would just click on you click on plus. You click on this plus button right here. You click on this plus button right here. This one. This selection doesn't do this plus button right here. And once you click on that, it will open up the other brushes that you can add up to this to your app, so you can use different brushes. It has the cloud version. If you connect to the internet, if you turn on your data or your Wi-Fi, you'll be able to see other brush that you can simply download and have in this application right now. So I won't be talking about how to use this brush. You basically figure it out yourself by experimenting on them. The next thing I want to talk about here is this color wheel here. The color wheel is basically what is here. But in case you're looking for contrast, in case you're doing when we talk about color contrast, for instance, the color that is the contrast of red, for instance, let's use red now. Let's pick a color here. The the color for that is the color contrast for red. If you are using this column here, this color column here, you actually be getting it wrong. You would have to click here and find, and you see the color that is directly opposite the red on the color wheel. That's the contrast of red, and you can see clearly here. You can see clearly here the contrast is obviously blue. And so if we select that, and yep, we now have the two colors, and we can use them. And this, I think, this is the color for Spider-Man and Superman and all of that. So most of these techniques are used. And if you've looked at the color video that I said, I don't know. I think I will be sending this one first, so the color will come after. I talk about that. Talk about what I think about and some of the color theory, some of the things to know, contrasting color, triad color schemes, and all of those things to help you so you don't create art and use random colors. And I talk about value saturation and how to create a good composition using colors. So I guess you'll be getting that after this video. So for now, you just have to make do. So these are what we have here. And basically, the opacity is the degree of the brush. So if you reduce the opacity now, right, it's not as you see that every other thing you paint will show. And you don't really need to click on this palette tool to reduce and increase your opacity. In this right here on this small color toolkit you have, this is for the opacity. I can't believe I forgot to mention that. And this is for the size of the brush. So you got the opacity and the size. So you just put your finger there and raise it up or raise it down. And basically, that's what that does. And you can take the opacity all the way to 0. Now, we found something that is on this color palette here is the transparency um, tool. So basically, you can change your brush from being a brush to being an eraser using this transparency tool. For instance, let me get the fluffy water brush tool and let me do something like this. You see how this brush creates this nice fluffy weather-like effect on here. If I decide I want to erase this, but I still want to keep this quality, and I pick the normal eraser, are you seeing what it does? I'll just increase the size now. Are you seeing what it does? It doesn't give me the kind of feeling I want, or it doesn't give me the same effect of this brush. So all I'll have to do is I'll still be on my pen tool selected, and I'll click on my palette um, icon, and then I'll change this right here from color to transparent. And so when I click on transparent, it changes this brush to an eraser. So I can create an effect with this brush. And this is really cool if you're trying to go for something and you really don't want someone to know how you did it. I mean, for people who don't know much about art. And maybe here you can get away with it. Let me use a different brush now. For instance, I use the pen brush, increase the pressure, and am I selected on this? Am I still on this layer? Okay, remember to always turn it back to color, or else if you be drawing and you will not know why what you were drawing is not appearing on the screen. So change it back to color. I always forget to change it back to color. So you see, I have a brush now, and it's pretty basic. And if I want to create a certain kind of feeling to it, I can simply come and do something like this. Now I'm erasing with a different kind of brush, and yeah, it's giving this a certain kind of feeling that. And I really don't know where this can be used, but once you start drawing and you get creative, you start having ideas on how you can use all of this to create something. So you see, it creates that nice feeling, and that's something I always use all the time. Okay, so we have the palette here, the palette icon still on the on um right there, just opposite the color wheel, and then you see there's a default palette here, and if you click on um these lines right here, I indicated it's these lines right here, you can simply see a list of palettes that you can select and use for whatever you're doing. and I really don't use all of these except the skin tone palette. So you might not really know what, if you're painting a figure or a character, you might have troubles at finding the right color that is for that can indicate a human skin. So this skin tone, it appears here, and you can simply select from light to dark. Although in my opinion, I feel they're a little bit desaturated, um, so you might have to still work on it in post production to make everything look a little bit more vibrant after you are done with what you are doing. Right? I feel like it's a bit um, desaturated. So, and you can save these palettes, and for instance, you can just simply increase your brush size and make dots like this. Click on the next one, make dots like this. Click on the next one, make like this, and just like this. And you can create it by the side of your work on a different layer. So in your drawing, you can simply use this pick eyedropper tool and select the one you want, select the color you want, and use that. Select the color you want, and use it. So you don't have to keep clicking on this palette tool and going to click here and come back to draw and going to click here and come back to draw. You know, all of that. It's just a way to save you time. So that is all right here. I talked about, and yeah, you can also delete a brush or raise a brush up. This arrow up and arrow down buttons basically is to raise a brush if you want to prioritize a brush. If you really like this sparkle, this airbrush, and you use the airbrush a lot, you want it to be at the top. So every time you come, you can just simply click like this and pick it without having to scroll down. Basically, that's what it's for. You just raise it up. It's just to give you priority. And so that's that with this palette tool right here. The next is the layer tool. And I'm going to spend a little time talking about the layer here. And layers, it's something that it's a tool that's found on all drawing software. Whatever drawing software you're using, you're going to deal with layers, a lot of them. And you'd use layers. And um, the concept of layers is basically it's simple. It's simple. It's like I think the best way to explain layers is by doing a practical example. All right. So let me draw something right now. I'm going to select my brush, and set it to a black, and let me draw a character. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just drawing a pretty basic character, nothing special. So fluffy hair. I'll show you how I create some of those really nice pieces that you see. And there's a special technique I use to make them pop. I'll be explaining that in detail in the next video, because the next video after this is how I draw some of those characters, and I think they're going to come alongside the color, the shading video, so everything just sits well. So I'm drawing a random character. It doesn't really make sense. No problem. Let's just okay now. So this is the character I've done. Um, if I were to paint this character now, if I want to paint this character, let's say I'm done with this and I want to paint this character, and I increase the size of my brush because now I want to paint, and I change the skin color. I don't know, just select anything. Let's make him a random um, alien boy, for instance. Um, and I wanted to paint his skin. Are you see what's happening right now? I'm painting and I'm destroying the line work that I created. So what do? I simply click on layer, create a new layer, color layer, boom, and then I paint. Oh, looks like I'm still having the same trouble. What is the problem now? It's because I am not using the layers correctly. So if I click on this layer, hold it still, and pull it down, whoa, look at that. What do I have now? Now the color is taking effect and it's not destroying the other part of the mesh or the other part of the character. So I can simply stay on this layer and continue creating. And I really don't know the technical definition to give you about layers. But all I can say it's just basically a way to prioritize things, and I think it's something that should come naturally if you're drawing. And you would actually have to try different ways to get the hang of it. right? But once you do, it's going to be second nature. You wouldn't even have to think about it. Now, there are times when you're drawing something and you want, it's just like saying what on top of what, right? Now, if you're going to draw a shirt over this character, clearly the shirt will be above the layer of the skin because the shirt will cover the skin, right? So to me, it's like simple logic. If you drew this the shirt to be under the layer of the skin, what you're saying is that you want the shirt to be inside the body and you want the skin to show, you don't want the shirt to show. So it wouldn't make much sense. So once we have the hair now, clearly the hair will be above the layer of the face because the hair covers parts of the face, and the skin of the face to be, or the color of the skin of the face to be behind the color of the hair. So that's how you want to create it. Now, there are many other ways that this would not really count. That is if you were painting everything accurately. For instance, if I draw this to be the skin, I'm still on the skin layer, and don't worry about clean up. I'm just giving an example here, so I wouldn't be spending that time to clean up. If I draw this, boom, and I want to draw the hair, I will create a new layer above this skin layer and select a different, let's say I select this color or whatever. Just I would have to now paint on this layer. See, it covers the color, covers the color. So that is how I would do that. Now it's that simple. Now once you're drawing more complex things, the layers are going to be so much. One thing I would advise you to do is to name all your layers so that you have a certain level of organization and you can simply locate what, and if something is looking funny, you can simply look, okay, I put this layer here, and learn to use groups. I was telling you that you have to organize your layers in such a way that it makes sense and you can locate things. Let me give you an example with something I have worked on previously. So which one do I click on now? Did I use group? I think on this character, I think I use groups. I'll click on this. It's going to take a little while to open. Okay, so this is the character I have right here, and I did all of this work on this app. So clearly it's possible to create amazing pieces with this application right here. So I click on my layer here. So you can see what I did here. If you check, I have a folder for shading, and if I click on that folder, you can see these are all the shadings I did. So let me deactivate them, hide all of this. You can see that the work becomes completely flat. I'm going to hide the highlights now, and it becomes a lot flatter. If I hide the inks, that's the secondary ink. You see, I'm losing detail the more I'm hiding some of these things. If I hide the main ink, you see. So this is the way I organize it. Right, I just create a folder and put all my shading in one folder. Actually, I'm supposed to have one folder for highlights, so I'm going to click on plus here, create folder, and then I'm going to click on the settings icon here, and I can simply click on this and rename this to, let's say, highlight, and hit set. Then click on this highlight layer here and click the arrow button that goes up. Once I click the arrow button that goes up, it automatically puts these highlights into this layer, into this folder. So another way to do that, if I hit undo right now, another way to do that is simply to hold this layer and take it up. And if I want to put it here, all I have to do is just move to the highlight folder, and it should work like that. And clearly, because if the layer is closed, let me try it with shading. So if I click on this and I raise it up here, okay, it's because that folder was closed. So if you open up the folder, you can simply drag and put it. So if I click on inks and I open up the inks, all right, I can simply drag and put this in inks. Right, so I guess that makes a lot of sense. Raise this up. Okay, So this is basically the organization, but I don't go crazy with it because you can see here that there are some layers that I didn't name, like really small details that I didn't really name them. They are just layer 49, layer 43, and it tells you it tells you how much layers I've used on this work. This is just, I think, somewhere that I started naming. I bet I used more than 100 layers on this particular work I did here. So this is what you'll be using while you're creating yours. So there's still more that I didn't activate. These things were just ideas that I added to the character, but I didn't like them, so I put them in a folder and I hid them because maybe I might need them some other time, and then I would unlock them and then use them. But no, for what I was doing, I didn't need it, so I just hid the visibility of that. So you can see on the background I put something called backlighting. So if I hide it, you see I lose that light size at the back of the character. So if I enable it, you can see that there's a particular light here. And how I did this is pretty simple. Airbrush, I selected the airbrush. I've talked about the brush tool. I just selected the airbrush, increase the size, and which let me just do this on the layer that is visible, and I just, you know, did something like this at the back. Did something like smoothing my hand, and then probably decreasing the opacity of that light, and say yes, I have lights now. All right, so some of these things are not they're not that complicated. There's nothing actually complicated in this piece right here. Except ask me what brush I used for the blood here, and I think it's a custom brush that I got from the web. Okay, I think it's a splatter watercolor brush. So basically click the plus button and click on cloud, and you can connect to the internet and find it and just download it. It's free. You don't have to do any other thing. You just click on the brush just the way you see these ones here. That's how it will appear. There's a long list of them, and you just click on that and it appears on your brush menu here. So you can have all of that and just experiment with it. Basically, some of these brushes I didn't even know what they are used. I just, you know, create a layer and then start messing around with this, and then I find out, oh, maybe I can use this for blood. Oh, this layer, this brush looks like blood splatter. Now I like it. I can use it for maybe a character that's bloody or something. And I'm trying this brush, and I'm like, wow, I like the painterly effect of this brush. I'm going to use it for something like the clouds when I'm drawing the clouds. So basically it's just experimenting with all those tools there and finding out, okay, yes, maybe I can use this for this, maybe I can use that for that. Now if you click looking still on this layers tab, there is the protect alpha, clipping, draft layer, and lock layer. So let me explain to you what all of these things can do, and I don't know if this image right here will be the best for this explanation. Let me see. I mean, it's really complex, so I'm not going to use it. I want this to be as simple as possible. So this is a random character I was just illustrating a few days ago. Basically, I was just trying to build up a sketch from something I saw. Create a new layer. Yeah. Okay, let me talk about protect alpha. Protect alpha is simple. If I draw a shape like this, oh, I'm still on the splatter brush. I'll go back to the normal pencil brush. If I draw a shape like this and I click on protect alpha and I change the color and I want to draw, now you see what's happening. Protect alpha now locks in that color in such a way that every other thing, anything I paint, no matter how much the size is, it's not going to go outside this line that was previously done. So in the case where you want to paint your character, you can draw something like a silhouette, and then you create other layers and then clip it to that silhouette and draw, and what you're drawing would not appear outside. Let me give you an example. So I know it's a lot to take in, but let me give you an example. For instance, this is the silhouette of my character, and it doesn't really have to be any special color. Remember to unlock protect alpha, or else you won't be able to draw on the screen if there's nothing there. So let's say I want to draw a ball, and I start with something like this. All right, it's not perfect, but I mean, it does the job. And this takes us to clipping. Now I create a new layer, color layer, and I click on clipping. You see what it does? It creates an arrow here, and that arrow indicates that this layer is clipped to this layer 4 is clipped to layer 3 in such a way that everything I paint on layer 4 will not go outside the boundaries of layer 3. So layer 3 is like the boundary of operation for layer 4. So if I click on blue right now, I reduce it. If I see I draw a straight line, you see it doesn't cut through, it only cuts through that which I had drawn previously on the other layer. So it gives me the freedom to do whatever I want, and in a case whereby I have a lot going on the background, it will be very advantageous to me because I don't have to be too careful. I can simply paint whatever I want on this particular layer, and it's going to all clip to this one, layer 3. So it makes sense. So the lock layer basically is to lock the layer in such a way that you will not be able to you may not be able to create anything on that layer. You can't do anything on that layer until you unlock it. It's like saying if you have some work and you are doing, and you have some layers that, for instance, you might be drawing and you might be drawing on the wrong layer, right? And you might mistakenly draw on the wrong layer and be like, oh no, I drew on the wrong layer. But lock layer gives you that privilege whereby you've maybe made out this silhouette and you like it, you can simply lock it so that no other change can be done to it except you unlock. So draft layer basically is just a layer that you want to use in the case whereby you're doing a comic book. There's the first sketch or the first initial sketch you're drawing, and that's like the rough sketch, like a draft, and you're not going to use it in the work. You just create a layer and you have it there, and you can just set it as a draft layer, right? Like this one now, this stuff I had drawn here, I'm basically going to refine this like 2 or 3 times. So it's like the draft, I'm just trying to figure out things. So that's basically what the draft layer is. And the blending modes, we have so many blending modes: normal, multiply, add, divide, overlay. All of these blending modes, they are just like effects that you can try out with your character. And I will not be talking much about this until I get to a practical when I'm drawing a full character with this application, and I'll be showing you why I'm using what blending mode and what each of these blending modes represent. And I don't really use all of them, but I think I have had experience with all of them here. So I'll be talking about that later on. And the opacity basically is to, the level of what's the word now, clarity you can have on the character. I think I minimized the level of clarity you can make your character look like it's fading away. Just the opacity, simple. And so that's all you have here for this layer 2. And okay, I think there's something I missed here. This arrow right here, this arrow, if you click on it, it gives you the filter menu and the layer management menu. So if you click on the filter list, there are so many other things you can do: your hue, saturation, brightness, and this is just color management, and this is just messing around with things. There's the Gaussian blur to make to blur out your character. You see, there's the monochrome to make what you have there black and white or what. And there's just a lot on this place, and not that much, but just fair enough to help you. And so they are just listed here. Line art extraction is a tool I'll be showing you when I start drawing. Rasterize is basically to turn an image you imported that's a smart object into a layer object, and you wouldn't really be using it. I can't really explain that now. I will show you when I'm doing when I'm working practically, because not everything here is it's not everything here I can explain except I start practicing and you're seeing what I'm doing, and I can tell, okay, this is why I did that and this is why I did what. And so layer management, we have the merge down, merge folder, duplicate, clear, flip vertically, flip horizontally, and rasterize. And there's the mask and stencil, which is for when you're drawing a comic book and you want to create certain backgrounds. You use the mask and stencil. I will explain it when I'm drawing and you're watching, so I can't really show that right now. So this is the delete and move up, move down. That's to manipulate these layers, and this is to add a new layer. There are different layers there, but I suggest you just stick with color layer and select an image to add for now. So that's all we have here. And the next, we have this small tile, this small thing here. I don't know what this thing is, but basically it's to download it's just an app feature that you use to download items from the cloud. So that's if you're connected to the internet. It creates tones and all of that for comic books and comic creation. Now let's move up to here. We want to look at these tools right here. This tool right here. So the first is the 45-degree ruler tool. So what that does is that it creates a guideline and helps you to draw lines in this 45 degrees. So I made a mistake to do it on the same layer. Please take note of whatever layers you're drawing on, because you have a limited amount of undos you can do until if you hit 20 you can't go any further down, so you'd have to erase with the normal eraser. And if what you have done is so much, it might just destroy that layer and the other work you have there. So you want to be careful that you are drawing on the right layer and you protect what you're doing previously. So this one now, 45 degrees straight, 45-degree lines, angled lines. And so that's what it does. If you click on the other tool, it gives you straight lines, straight horizontal and straight vertical lines. You see? Now let's clear that. The next tool is basically this tool, and it gives you this kind of perspective lines, like action lines to a point. It gives you action lines to a point. So you can actually modify these things by clicking on here and moving snap. Right, you can simply move the snap and change the angle. That same goes for all the other tools here, all the other guidelines like the 45 degrees angle lines. If you click on move, you can simply change the angle by manipulating the position of this red line that appears, and you can simply do that and you will change the angle of the line. And right, and then the next tool is the circle tool. This circle tool right here is very nice in case when you're drawing certain things and you want a certain kind of shape. Let's say we're drawing a figure and we want a kind of look. See how that shape, that helps us to just form the initial stuff we're doing here. See, that helped us. So we're drawing a character now. Ta-da! Some weird looking Polly Pocket character. I don't know what this is right now. Some creepy looking dude. We'll clear that right now. So that's all for the guideline tool. And the correction, so the correction is like line smoothing. Right, the level of line smoothing that you want with your stuff. I've seen. So if I increase the correction, it gives us a certain level of line smoothing. I don't use it because I don't know, I just don't use it. But if you're doing a kind of work and you want the lines to be smooth, if you have seen something like, if you've seen some kind of doodles that you find that the lines are very smooth, that's what they use. It's called image stabilization in Photoshop and Clip Studio. You see, it gives us these really smooth lines. You probably would not be able to do that by yourself, without the line stabilization on. So we can use that to draw another creepy looking thing right here. Sheesh. Anyways, that's kind of cute. So look at this right here. If we move up to the top, and that's the last tools that we're going to consider. I really don't know how to use this application as I should. This stuff here, it's a long list that goes on, and some of the things there we've actually considered them. If you see, it goes on. If you scroll, you can find it. So the first one is the pen, the second is the eraser, the third is the palm, and the palm is just to move your canvas around. The third is the rectangle, the shape tool, circle, polygon, and yep, does that. The curve tool, spline, actually it's called the spline tool, right? It's called the spline tool, something like this. Then you have the connected points, and use that to draw certain points. And this will come in handy. You figure out how to use it once you start drawing practically. You figure out how to use it. And we have the line tool. This other line tool is a funny one. This line tool, so it just does the line wherever you want it to go. You see a guideline. Once you hold and you release, you see the line. Nothing fancy, nothing fancy. I've deleted my cute guy there. So the other part of it right here is the this tool right here. It's just a button that you use to navigate through your canvas, or rather move objects around your canvas. Let me give you an example. I'll draw a circle right here with the splatter brush, and I create a new layer, and I pick a different color, and I draw another right mark here. If I click on this arrow tool right now, you can see what the arrow tool does. It moves the object on that layer I've selected on. So if I go to the red layer, are you seeing? So that's what happens when you have different parts and you want to just move them and adjust them. That's what you use that tool for. I think you can also do it by clicking free transform. By clicking this boundary tool here, by clicking free transform, you can still do the same thing that tool does, but that one just gives you easy access to what you're looking for. The other tool is the shape tool, but this is the fill shape tool. Right, the other one that we looked at is the line shape tool. What it does is that it gives you the shape, it gives you an outline, but it doesn't fill it, and it gives you an outline based on the brush you're selected on. Meanwhile, this one here that's filled will not give you based on the brush you're selected on. It will just give you a good old rectangle, sphere, whatever you use, whatever you decide to do with it. Same goes for the circle, an ellipse, whatever you want to create. Same goes for this other tool, which is a tool that you just create points with, and when you release at the end, it creates a shape. And there's the option here to manipulate with the opacity. There's the option to manipulate with the opacity right here, so in case you want something lighter. See, so that's just it. And then we have the fill tool. The fill tool just basically fills the shape that we have selected, that we have created. For instance, we have this, I wanted to color it. Trying to color this would take a lot of time, going over and over and over. We'll just basically click the fill tool and fill. Then we can set the expansion. If you look carefully, it fills and there are some gaps here. What expansion does is it fills out all of those gaps. So if you set the expansion to something like 2 and we fill again, if you zoom in, you can find out that those gaps are no longer there. Right, those gaps are no longer there. And if you set the canvas, the expansion too much, when you fill, there's a tendency for it to flood out, creating a shape. You can see that creating a shape out of what you have created initially rather. So you have some weird looking shape if you overuse this. So you want to keep it something fair enough, like 1 or 2 max 3. And then what close gap does is, in case normally you can't feel if there is a gap, in what you let us just give an example. Let's create that gap and try to fill with the normal fill brush. Look, you see what it does? It fills everything, and that's not what you want. So if you're drawing and you have some gaps, or you can't really see where your gaps are to fill them, or your art style is that kind of style that makes use of gaps and all of that, you would want to increase the gap range so that it closes out the gap using the artificial intelligence of the app. So it fills out that gap and it doesn't go out. It will come in really handy when you're drawing and you're trying to paint really complex parts and all of that. I use that tool a lot. Next up, we have the gradient tool. Alright, so I'm going to create a new color layer. I will hide these other layers so you won't see them. I'll click on the gradient tool, and you see this is the gradient, and it uses the colors it uses for this gradient. You can find them here. I'll find them here. You see I have green selected. Let me show you that. You can find them right here. I have green and white selected, and so those are the two colors it's going to use for the gradient. So if I click on white and change that color to something like red, and then I double click to swap back to, I click again to switch back to green, you can change that to something like an orange or something like that. And then if I go back and I try to see, the gradient has changed. And this is a cool setting if you're trying to do a, what would I call it? You're trying to paint a, I don't know, something like a sunset, something like that. Let me just try to do something with this. So let's say I'm painting a sunset, or I want to paint something. I really don't know. Just using different methods. I could create something. I could not. I don't know. Let me try that other tool that we looked at previously. Let's try this fill rectangular tool. Let me select black, and let me do this. Okay, I have to go back to my color. Let me do something like this. And then if I reduce the opacity, I can do another something like this. See that? And I drop this down. I have some kind of cool I don't know, something here. So let me reduce the opacity even further down. I can still create stuff that look like this. It gives it more depth. And if I click on the circle and I make the color white and I do something like this. Now I'm going to do it on a new layer so I can adjust it. Just a practical example of how this works. Oh, the opacity is at 0. Alright, so I can simply move that to here. And if I don't like the color, I can probably select a better brush, increase the size, go to that layer, protect alpha. Remember what we said about the protect alpha? What it does is that you can't paint outside that which has been selected. So if I, that which is on the layer. So if I click on protect alpha and I change the color to yellow or something, I can simply draw over this shape and have something like this. If I wanted to go further with it, what I would do is I'll create a new layer, enable the this tool right here. We spoke about this tool, the vertical and horizontal lines, which means I can draw perfect vertical and horizontal lines without having to have straight lines and all of that. So if I click on this tool, it creates a guideline. I could simply do this, but it's clearly this is not going to work, so I'm going to click on this other tool and do something like this. And now that I have this, I think this particular one is perfect. I'm going to use the move tool and just move it somewhere here. Click on the boundary tool and select zoom out and zoom in. If I click zoom out and zoom in, I can simply reduce the size and set it, and then I will go back and just manipulate this to fit. Then what I'll do is I'll go back to that layer, duplicate it, and then drag the shape over here. And I'm going to merge both layers, merge down, and then I'm going to be able to manipulate them. What I'll do is I'll go back and then duplicate the same layer, bring it down, go back, duplicate the same layer, bring it down, and if I wanted to fasten this process, I'm going to merge both layers and then do a duplicate. So what it does is carries two of them. And if I zoom out, I can do the same thing for all the other parts of this here. I mean, let's just stick to it. That's what it looks like. Merge down, merging all of these layers, and then I'm going to drag this, whatever this thing is, sort of like light, and then I'll come back, create a duplicate, and drag it over here. I don't like this one because it's quite big, so I'm going to click on the boundary tool and select zoom out, zoom in, and then I'm going to reduce the size, and I'm going to push it up, still with that arrow tool. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to duplicate and have this here, and I'm still going to use the zoom out to make it smaller. Set it up, use the navigational tool to drag it out. Let's do that again for the last ones. Duplicate, drag it over here, and for this particular one, I'm going to just move in with the vertical and horizontal guideline set up. Click my eraser, and I'm going to just erase the other two colors. See that? And after I've done it, I will still duplicate that setup and pull it down. To save me time, I'm going to just do the small adjustments here. I'm going to go back and merge. Oh, I think I clicked duplicate right there. No problem. I want to merge all of this together. So I'm going to click merge down to confirm. There's still one missing. Okay, merge down. So you see why it's good to name your layers, because if you don't name your layers, you would find yourself coming to hide to see which layer you're selected on, hide it to see which layer you're selected on, and it may not be too good. And because of that, I've mistakenly I've gone to merge the light on here and the light with here, and which I didn't want to. I wanted to merge all the light on this rectangle and merge all the light on this one separately on different layers. But that's what happens when you are not naming your layers. No problem. I will just do something now that will take us to the selection tool. This tool right here, it helps you to select certain parts of certain objects or parts of a layer. So if you have layer 1 and you want to select a certain part of layer 1 only to duplicate, and you don't want to duplicate the whole layer, you go to selection tool. So let me show you. So I click on this, I'm still on my brush. I click on the selection tool right here, and I have the rectangle selection tool. There are different modes of selection. This is the rectangle, then this is the ellipse or the circle, so it's selecting the circle shape. This is the point selection tool, so you just create points like this, and this is for when your work is not straight and it's not really together. It's not a definitive shape. You have to just use that. And we have the freehand lasso tool, which is like you drawing and making your selection, right? You select, and there is the selection. The plus button here does extra selection. It adds more selection to it, right? Then the minus button removes part of the selection. If you don't want some things to be selected, you can simply cut them out with the minus button. The off button is just the default button. So once you have something selected and you want to select extra areas and you do something like this, you will deselect the first one so it can select the second one. So if we want to select this building and the second building without losing the first selection, we'll click on plus and select this, and then we have two selections. Now let me go back and click on the rectangular selection tool, go back to off and do this. Now I've done this. I like what I've done. I'm going to click on this tool right now. This tool right now is a tool we have been using. It has some really nice features. So we're going to click on it, and I'm going to see zoom in, zoom out. But clearly this is not what I want to do. I want to copy that layer, so I will see it on the the pen and canvas icon tool there. I don't know what that thing is called, but that's where we're going to see it. So I'm going to click on that tool, and I'll click on copy, and then I'll click on my layer, and I'm going to click on the same tool and click paste, and it pastes that, and I go back to my navigational arrow tool, and I just drag this out. Boom. Look what we have here. Look what we've been able to create with this tool. Isn't it lovely? Just the basic tools, without having to draw and paint anything, we've been able to create something decent. And I'm just manipulating, I'm just moving the shapes here. We've been able to create something pretty decent. So if I wanted to, yep. So what if I wanted to give this, if I wanted to go extra mile with this, I would just come here and create a new layer above everything. Select that horizontal, that's gradient tool right here, and some of these tools are hidden, so you'd have to swipe to find them. You see there's an arrow key here that goes, you swipe to find them. So this gradient tool, and there's the first gradient here I didn't speak about, which would not have made as much sense as it will make now that you've seen a practical use of these things. This first gradient, what it does is that it gives you two colors. So it fills two colors. For instance, we have red and orange, just like we did in the background here when we started. Now the second gradient, the second gradient gives you a transparency gradient, and what that means is it gives you a color and one transparent. Let me show you. If I click on that, I can come here and choose only one color. Let me go with something that looks like blue. I don't know, maybe to create contrast on this work right here. Some bluish like color, and if I try to paint, are you seeing what it does? It gives me blue, and it doesn't, there's no other color it feels, even though right here I have blue and yellow, it doesn't feel yellow. You see that? So this is the effects now it's giving us. And if we wanted to push this even further, we could simply come here and click on layer adjustment. If we change this to multiply, change this to add, change this to divide, change this to overlay, are you seeing how these colors are changing and the effects is giving us? I said I was not going to talk about these effects until I get to a position whereby I'm getting practical with these tools, and you can see that all of these color adjustments or color layers, they have their own use, and you can use them for different purposes. In case maybe you're painting an artwork and you want the guy's eye to be glowing, you might want to use hard light or color dodge or add layer, right? Something to make the character glow, even though I don't like the hardness of the hard layer, of the add layer rather. So you can see all of these things, they just have their own use. So for this, I will just stick with hard light. I will kill the opacity just a little because I don't want it to overshadow the effect of what I have right now. So yeah, you see, so that's what this gradient tool does. Now there's this other tool right here I didn't speak about, which is the radial gradient option, meaning it's not a linear gradient like we did for these ones we created. We had to create a straight vertical line or a straight horizontal line to create the gradient. Now for the other one we're going to be doing, it's not the same. For this radial gradient is not the same, so let me click on it. First of all, save this because I kind of like this right now, so I will save it. And after I'm done, I'm going to just create a new layer above this. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a group layer and group all of this previous work into that. Just click that, click on the layer and click the top arrow button to push it up, push it in, push it in, push it in, push it in, push it in. And so if I tap that layer, boom, it closes. And I can rename it to environment. Let's call it environment. Don't know, just so I can know environment work painting. I don't know, let's just set it like this. Now we can see, and so we will just hide this layer, and I can continue on this other one. So for the radial gradient tool right now, let's see what colors were selected. And we have white and we have red. So let me click on this and change this red to something like yellow. Yeah, switch back to red. So look what the radial tool does. Alright, I just realized that we are selected on the transparent gradient, so that's not going to work. If we want to get that kind of mix, we'd have to click on the normal gradient. And you see what that does. So I don't ever use it because I don't think it's really that practical. Rather, if I wanted to do something like this, this is what I would do. I wanted to create an effect like this. Let me clear this layer. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on this fill tool and select that same, let's say red or something, and I want it, and I'm going to just fill the entire layer. After I filled it, I'll click on my pen tool, go to my pen and select my airbrush tool. Increase the size to something like 500 or so. And if I have my airbrush selected, I'll zoom into my subject, whatever I'm painting, and then I will click on OK. I'll zoom in and click on my pen tool and just go over my, oh, I'm supposed to change the color, sorry. I'll change the color and then I can create whatever I want around my subject. This one looks funny because it looks so small because this is a very big canvas. I'm working on a very big canvas, so the size of this brush will be affected by the size of this canvas. So what would have been a big brush on a medium or small canvas is now looking like a tiny brush because I'm using a very big canvas. But if I liked that effect and I wanted to scale it, what I'll do is just click zoom. Oh, see the mistake, I was painting on the wrong layer. I'm supposed to create a new layer to do that thing. Right, now I'm done. So I'm going to click on this tool here and change and try to use the zoom in, zoom out, whatever. Create somewhat the same effects with that, but it gives me gives me a softer feeling to it, and in my opinion, it's better than this tool right now. This tool is just this this radial gradient tool here. It's just what's the word now? I just don't like it, and I never use them, or I never use it. We talked about the selection tool, which I showed you practically in the previous one. Then we have the magic wand tool. So I'm going to open my environment layer right now just to show you. The magic wand tool basically selects whatever. It does it like magic. Probably that's why it's called a magic wand tool. So you select it by color or by shape. So if I click on this, what it does is selects the shape. But you see, in the point where the gradient started affecting this color, I wasn't able to select up to there. Right. So magic selection tool can help you to make selections when you have to do other things, and it works just like the previous selection tool. We talked about the plus button and the minus button to add and to subtract. The expand button works like the float tool button, where you click on this, you want to expand the selection, and close gaps, same thing, exactly what it does in the other aspect. In the other tool that we looked about, which was the fill tool we looked at, it closes out in case there is a gap. It closes out the selection, and you're going to actually see it when you are in practice, more than just when I'm explaining this thing down to for you. And so what is this tool right now? I think it's to paint selection. Is to paint selection. I actually have not used this tool before, to be really honest with you. I'm kind of confused what it does, but I'm curious. Oh, I see. It's kind of like a, what is it called now? It's like a burn. It's a burn tool. It's like a burn tool. You create some kind of burn-like effect on your work. Just where you can have the, oh, so this is what it does. Okay, no, this is not burn tool. This is the masking tool. Now I realize. This is the masking tool. I never use the masking tool on this place. I just move with layers and clipping layers. I hardly use the masking tool. So it's to create a mask that's probably in case you want to create a mask. If you do something like this and you say, okay, this is the mask. All right. Masking is just something that we use in digital art. Works like the clipping tool, but has its own it has its own perks. So if we have this tool, what means that area is selected, we can create a stencil there. We can create a stencil layer, and if we create a stencil layer, it's like trying to put a texture or something behind. I don't have any texture right now. I don't have any color tone right now. But what that means is whatever thing we put here would only appear on this mask, on this red image you're seeing here. It's not going to get to this black. The boundary of operation for whatever thing is a texture and image, it won't pass through. It will stick to that area that we have masked, that we have selected to be our mask, and we can simply come here to add. We can simply go back to that tool to increase the mask, and also cut out some parts to not be masked. I don't use it a lot on this application because it's just small, and whenever I try to do clipping mask work, I usually get carried away and it becomes so big, and that would make more sense if I was showing you with Photoshop. But on this app, I just stick to normal layers and clipping mask. So if I click on this clipping, if I create a clipping mask, it just clips to the previous one, and I do what I want to do. I actually have not found use for the layer mask or the masking tool all the while I've been using this application. So it's most likely something you will not be using if you're a beginner. Deselect. So the last one here we have the panel tool, and this is for comic book creators. If you click on this panel tool, let me change my color to black since we're now doing comic stuff. And now, so if you click on this and we click on add comic panel black, boom, it creates an outline for us, and then we can just do a stroke. We can just move around our canvas like this, and it creates panels for us. Create comic book panels. Really simple. You can increase the kerning to increase the size between the panels and also the leading. All right. So we're creating some crazy comic book. You can use this to make nice comic book panels. And boom. See, we have a comic book panel now, and you can just come in and start drawing on this panel. Start drawing our outline for some nice comic book we're doing, or we can even use this for storyboards. Let's say we want to draw one. Okay, so sorry. Let's just do this. Oh, he's hooking somebody and he's going to kill him. Oh, save me! Somebody save me! And this guy comes in, he's like, oh, bum, 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 bum. Okay, so there's something crazy is happening here. What's happening here? Then he comes and he throws his fireball. Stop! Don't kill him! He's my brother! And this guy that's trying to kill him, like, oh, you're my brother? I'm sorry! I'm gonna hug you! Hug me too! Oh! And this other dude's like, yay! I saved the day! Oh! Okay, I'm sorry for making you go through that. Alright, so that's basically what we're going to use that tool for. And the other tool right here is somewhat like, I've never used this tool. I have to be really honest with you, I've never used it. I don't know what this tool is used for, so we're going to leave it. And the last one is the text tool. And let's say we have finished our comic book and we want to add text to it. Alright, just come, click, and you add text. Add text. Add text. Add text. I thought my phone is flipping. There's a problem with this application in this aspect. Hey, yeah, this is it. You can't add text to anything except you are using the internet or Wi-Fi, or you're connected to the internet. It's not going to add. You're going to do this and it's going to show you network error until you are connected to Wi-Fi or something. My Wi-Fi is off right now, so I'll show you. Connected to Wi-Fi or something, and once you add that, it's going to add the text, and you can just manipulate the text. It's actually very simple. It's just like any other editing app you have used prior to this time. So basically, that's all the tools. We have covered all of the tools here. Let me know if there's something you don't understand or you want to get straight. I will put you through on that. So for now, that's just all. And did I talk about the calibration of the sonar pen? I think, yeah, I spoke about it on the first part. I think the calibration basically does, in case you want to use a sonar pen, a light pen, you can check about that on the internet. It's just like some kind of pen that plugs into the earpiece. It's a funny pen. It has a pen at one end, and the other end is a cable, some weird like cable that it plugs into the earphone jack spot, and you plug it in and you're able to draw on your screen like you're using a stylus and all of that. And that's how you calibrate. That's when you have that setup going on, that's when you can click on this calibrate sonar pen, and you have to download the particular application and blah 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 and set it up. So that's all right now. That's all we've done. So I like what we have created here in the process of doing this stuff. I'll still be showing you a full character design with this thing, and I'll be showing you my tricks. how I create character design with this application. So if you are interested, I'm going to hide everything now. So I would like you to draw something like this using the same tools that we use. We basically use the shape tool and manipulated the opacity to create this look of houses at the background and houses in the foreground. We use the gradient first for the background, and we use another tool for the ellipse tool for the sun or the moon right there, and we use another shape tool for the light, and the gradient tool for this blue light thing that's appearing here in front, like mist or something. So I'm sure you can do it. Give it a shot, and I want to see what you create. I'll see you next time in the next video. Peace.